and welcome. Today we are going to be doing a makeup tutorial. A couple weeks ago, my fourth daughter, Carly Shay, graduated from high school, and I happened to pop on Instagram stories that morning before we headed to her graduation. I had many people reach out to me requesting a makeup tutorial with the look that I did. So what I did today is I recreated that. And I haven't done a makeup tutorial since I don't know when. So I am overdue, and if this is something you like, you let me know and we can certainly do more. I will share with you that I don't generally have a natural makeup day and a more done up makeup day. I don't wear makeup every single day. So when I do wear makeup, I'm generally going to film that day. So really, this is pretty much what I would do on a typical makeup day, but I do play a little bit. I switch out lip colors, I'll switch out an eye palette, I'll switch out my blush colors and do fun things like that. So I certainly can do more of these tutorials if it is something that interests you. The other thing let me share is I just did a hair tutorial last week on this hair look right here, and you can get to that right up here, or you can get to it in the drop down box of this video. All of the products and tools that I use today will be linked in the drop down box of this video. The very top link in the drop down box will be the corresponding blog post. You may want to go there to do any of your shopping because I can put more information in that part of my content here. So always utilize the blog post whenever you can. All right, well, without further ado, let's dive into the makeup tutorial for this look. All right, my eyes are all prepped to get started. Let me just share with you that I always do my eye makeup before my face makeup. It's always been my preference. The reason for that is I don't have to worry about fallout. I have concealer on my eyelids. I also have my shadow primer on there. I am using the Too Faced Shadow Insurance. Again, every single thing that I use today, including brushes, will be linked below. I pretty much just applied that with my fingers, but you can also use like a concealer brush to put your concealer on prior to doing your primer. We are going to start with the Tapered Blending Brush by Sigma E40, and all you need is just some type of vanilla shade. You can use anything. I've even used a highlight, so it's a shade like this, and again, almost every palette has it, so I wouldn't get hung up on which palette you're getting from. I just run this over top of my whole entire eyelid just to kind of set that primer. We're going to dive in with a shadow, and let me share, this is one of those things where you can use different ones. There's a lot of options here. I am going to use this Plummy Taupe shade right here, but you can grab a color like this out of any palette. I'll show you some examples. For example, if you were to use the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette, you could use this shade right here. This is the LORAC Pro palette, and I have done this same look using mauve, and I have done it using sable. In the Urban Decay Naked Palette, I have used the shade Buck and achieved the same look that I am doing today. So it really doesn't matter which one you choose. I also have a palette here. This is the Sephora Pro palette, and there are many shades in here that you could play with to achieve this look. So again, I wouldn't get hung up on which palette you're using. You probably have something in your arsenal. I'm going to take this brush right here, and I'm going to tap it in the color, and I always tap off the excess. I am going to fill in the whole entire lid, and I pack it. I don't rub it, but I pack it. I do have lash extensions. I actually go tomorrow, so they are on the tail end to get a fill. But what I do is I use my finger to hold the lashes down so I can get in there and pack that shadow in. I am going back in and getting some more of this shade, and I'm kind of getting it on the edge of my eyes. And let me just share that this is going to be more of a smoky look. What I'm going to do now, you can see both of the lids are covered, but I'm actually going to take this and carve out my crease. What will happen here, ladies, is by using a darker shade on your lid and then carrying it up into the crease, This is going to lift your eye, and as we get older, that's what we want to do, is we want to lift our eye. And I find that using a darker shadow there will give that illusion versus maybe going with light. By nature, everyone always wants to go with light on the lid, maybe a shade more like that, which you could, but don't be afraid to do something like this. I think it's very striking. Just using the same brush, which will be linked. It's a Sigma. It's actually a concealer brush that I am using. It's not even for shadow, but I love it for this. Found it in one of the girls' bedrooms. I don't think it was being used. I confiscated it. It happens. I have a little bit of residue on here. Now, this is the trick, so pay close attention. I want to lift my eyes this way. Again, we want to always lift. So in this little curve right here, I bring it up just slightly with the remnants that are on the brush. And it's just in that outer section, right over here. Carrying that out. And it's all how you are holding the brush. Next, I'm going to take an angled brush like this right here, and I'm going to go into this charcoal shade. You can go into any matte gray or matte brown. I wouldn't do black. And what I do is I'm always thinking about lifting. So where I place this, I'm really trying to create a shape is what I'm doing. Where I place this is so that I'm going up, not out, but up. We always want to lift. I'm kind of extending off of my lower lash line right here, and I tilt my head back, and I just pack a little bit there, and then I go on the other side again, watching where that line is, and extending, creating a line there to give me the lift I am looking for. I'm going to get a little bit more, tap it off, and we're going to come in like this and build, kind of creating like we're doing a triangle. You can kind of see here. If you see anything on my lashes, that could be glue remnants. Because I do wear falsies with my lash extensions, so sometimes glue gets caked on them. I just put some more on, and now we're going to go up into that crease. This would definitely be a going out look, date night, wedding reception, some type of party. Probably not going to work. I would say this is going to be more glam. I'm going to take a blending brush right here just to make sure we blend that in. Blending is key when it comes to shadows. You can kind of go in a circular motion if you want. Keeping the same blending brush, I'm going to lightly tap it into that gray, get off the excess. Now this isn't going to pack as much because it's a blending brush, and you are just going to lightly circular motions right here. A little bit softer than what we just used, and it's all because of a different brush. This is what the shadow looks like up to this point, and really we just used 2 shades other than the vanilla, which I put for the base. I'm going to move into my Essence Long Lasting Eye Pencil. This is a fantastic pencil. I believe it's $2.99. I use this on the waterline, so it goes up in here, inside on the waterline, and I go all the way in. But then what I do is when I get to the end, I kind of flick it out a little bit. Moving on to a felt pen liner by Kat Von D. This is the ink liner in the color Trooper, so this is black, and I am going to move my makeup mirror up close. What I do is I take that little area where I flicked, and that kind of gives me a line. I don't like a thick line. I think it can be very aging. I just like it more on the outer part because again I'm trying to lift. The rest of it I just barely touch my lash line. And then I'm just kind of connecting into where I thicken it on the outer part. This is where I end at the eyes for right now, and then I'm going to move on to face. Now what I always do is I wash my face. A lot of people would just use a makeup cleansing wipe for this step. I produce a lot of oil, so I'm actually going to wash my face with cleanser using a muslin cloth to get it really clean to prep the skin. And I will be honest with you, most days, especially during the summer months, if I apply any type of skincare on my face, then I will produce more oil. So I'm going to go right in from my clean face, right into priming my skin for foundation. All right, my face is all clean. I did put some anti-aging eye cream on, but other than that, no skincare. We're moving right into face primer. I can't be without a primer, and I really wouldn't recommend it. I think it makes such a difference in the application and the staying power of your face makeup. I really never touch up all day long. I can be out in heat, humidity. When my face is done, we're good to go all day. And that's the key because I really don't have time. I know you don't either. I'm getting ready to apply my foundation. Today I am going to use a favorite. It is the Estee Lauder Double Wear. Stay tuned. In a few more days, I am going to be doing a video talking about all of the foundations that I recommend, especially for staying power during heat and humidity. The reason I am using this one today is because it matches my skin tone the most. I have been self-tanning, and this is the darkest foundation that I currently have. I just squirt some on my finger and put it on my face. I am using a beauty sponge. Now, I do love the Sigma F80 brush. If you are a brush girl, this is the one that I would recommend. My business manager turned me on to this beauty sponge, and I have been loving it, so I've probably been using a sponge for about a year. And I tap. I don't rub, I tap it in. You also want to make sure that you get it right in here to go on your ears a little bit if they're exposed, and you want to make sure you carry it down. Love this foundation. This is such great staying power. If you were a bride or we're going to be in a wedding, be photographed, be in film, video, Estee Lauder Double Wear is such a great foundation. Some people will dab this all over their face and then go around, but I like to do it in sections. And ladies, as we get older and the wrinkles are there, you need to move your face around to fill all those crevices. Let me talk about the beauty sponges, ladies. It's very important that you get your beauty sponges really wet. You want them to expand. I think the biggest mistake that people make with their beauty blenders and their beauty sponges is they don't hold them underneath water long enough, and you keep squeezing, squeezing, squeezing as you're running it under the water to get all of that water in there. That is the ticket. So if you have tried a beauty blender or sponge in the past and not had good luck, you may not have been using it right. And again, very important to carry it down the neck to blend. And what I do when choosing what shade works best for me for a foundation is I look at the mirror straight on. You want your foundation to match your chest. The neck is usually a little bit lighter because it does not see sunlight because we're blocking it. So you want to look straight and maybe put some foundation here and then see how it matches your chest. Moving on to under eye concealer. Loving this one by Kat Von D. Everything that I'm using today I love. So there's no need to ask me, what do you think of this? If I don't love it, ladies, I don't use it. So I just applied it with the doe foot applicator. I'm using a concealer brush now to blend it in. getting right inside here as well. You do want that brightening effect in there, carrying it down. And then what I do is I go back to the beauty sponge and make sure I'm merging it in with the foundation. This is still damp, but I didn't re-wet it. I only get it wet the one time. I have the under eye concealer on. One of the things that you can do with your beauty sponge too is you dab so that you can create, again, that lift with your shadow. Because there's a little bit probably left of foundation or concealer on the sponge. So anything that you can do to always be drawing the eyes upward. Next, we're going to go into my favorite translucent powder. It's the MERCIER, and what I do is I tapped the translucent powder into the lid. That's where I work from. I am going to use the same damp beauty sponge. I did not re-wet it. It's still just what was left over. And I tap into the beauty sponge, and then I tap into my foundation. I wouldn't call this baking. I just call it setting. So I go in there, and I think the key here, ladies, is the damp beauty sponge. It makes it not appear cakey. It just sets and mattifies that foundation. Now, you may not need to set your foundation as much as I do. I'm extremely oily. If you're not, you probably can modify this. Everything is going to be adjusted to what works for you. This is just what works for me. Again, we are trying to get makeup that stays all day through heat and humidity, and I really believe that using the foundation with the beauty blender, the translucent powder, setting it the way I do is what really makes the big difference. Always have your blotting papers. I never leave home without them, but I rarely have to use them because what I'm doing works so well to keep the makeup in place. To set the under eye, I use MERCIER Secret Brightening Powder in one, and I just go in and I get some of the powder on there. And then you always want to tap off the excess. This is really finely milled. It's so great to set the under eye. You can probably see my gray coming in. I go next Monday to color, highlight. No rhyme or reason here. We're just kind of setting that under eye. Next, I'm going to go into contour and bronzer. This palette has been a favorite for so long. I use every single thing in here. I have two of these. This is a great contour. The bronzer, the brightener, the highlight brightener is all just perfect. I use all of it every time I do my makeup. And then my favorite brush for contour is this one here by NARS. It's called the ETA brush. I mainly go into the contour shade, but then I will tap just a little bit into the bronzer, tap it off. And you want to start at the top of your ear when you are creating your contour. And you want to get the majority of the color towards the back here, not up in this part. And then I go upward too. And then you can bring it in. As you can see, this is kind of how I move my face when I am doing it. All right, cheeks are chiseled. Now we are going to do the forehead. Now I have a long rectangular face, and I recommend contouring according to your face shape. I do have a sunglass video that you can get to in the drop down where I talk about face shape, and I do talk about contour and highlight and blush placement. So when you are sculpting, you really want to pay attention to where it suits you. Most of you probably aren't going to have a long rectangular face. I want to soften the jawline and make it look a little bit more curved so I look more oval than more angular. I always do some contouring right here to just kind of soften. I'll show you on this side. Soften right here. A lot of people will be down here, which I will, but I like to come up a little bit to soften this area. And you always want to make sure you carry it down so it blends underneath your chin. And I always do the chin area as well, again to shorten my face. You may not need to. The other thing that I love about this brush as well is you can contour your nose. I have a small nose, but at the end, it is not perfectly straight. So I do like to do the two sides like this. You can shorten a long nose right here if you need to. Then I go in with another brush. This one right here, I don't know if it's still available. I'll have it linked. It's just a Target Up and Up. And I only go into the bronzer shade, not the contour. And this is just to warm up above where I contoured. It's going to transition me into my blush shade. I don't bronze my entire face. I don't like that look. I like to keep lightness around the center, create shadow where you need shadow, where it would naturally hit, and keep it light where light would naturally hit. I'm using the same brush, but I will link a couple different options for blush brushes, but I'm using the same brush, but in a different one. So I have one for bronzer and one for blush, and I'm going into this palette right here. I'm going to use this lighter shade right here. I love the darker one as well, but we are going a little smoky. I look better in cool tones. Many of you may look better in more peachy tones for your cheek and your lip color. I look better in more pinky or mauve-y, something cool undertone. So again, gauge it to you. Just lightly. I also look better with the whole apples being covered with some blush. You may not. This again all depends on your face shape. I highly recommend you get on Pinterest, you put in what your face shape is, put contour, highlight, blush placement for a round face, for an oval face, for a square face. For me, it would be for a rectangular face. All right, the blush is on. I want to back up for a minute and also talk about your brushes. I have small features, so it's a good idea to have brushes that are also small. I would always scale your brushes to your face. If you have smaller features, you may go with a smaller brush for, let's say, blush placement or for your bronzer or contour. For example, I don't have a long forehead. I have a shorter forehead, although I have a long face. The length of my face is more in this part. It's not down here or up here. So this is another brush that I love if I just need to add a little bit more bronzer in here and I want to really pack a punch with it. It's a little bit more dense, so it's just going to go better in there, and it's just scaled to my face much better. The important thing is that you blend. You know, I always take the Up and Up brush and make sure I blended that in really good. Going in with this right here, this is such a wonderful brightener for under the eyes. I just love it. I can't be without it. The brush that actually comes with this palette is this. I have a couple of them. This one I use for this purpose right here, and I really get it in there. Tap off your excess. And then I use it right where I would place a highlight initially. So like right here, I get it started. And I do it on the other side as well. But then I bring it in. And I kind of go back and forth. And then I go just like this. A nice sweeping motion to really brighten up that under eye area. Then I take it again. Tap it off, and I do a little bit right here because I don't like shimmer up here. There's no shimmer in this. I also bring it down my nose, and I go right here. I like to highlight those areas, but I don't want shimmer in those areas. Now, maybe if you're younger and you don't have oily skin, you could do shimmer in those areas, but I will show you where we do some shimmer. Love this highlight palette by SMASHBOX. There's 3 shades in here. You can mix all 3 if you'd like. My favorite one is this one here, but again, you can mix all of them. I go in with a small brush like this. I just use the corner of it and I tap it in here, but again, we can go in all 3, do whatever. Tap it off, and then right here, we are going to apply our highlight. I like to bring it up into a C, and then I have another one of these brushes, but I have a black rubber band, so I make sure that I know this one has shimmer on it, because you wouldn't want to do shimmer all over the under eye. And I blend this. Again, very nighttime glam makeup, party, special event, date night, not something for the office. This is perfect for filming though. This is beautiful for television or filming makeup for sure. And that's what I do, so that's what you're getting. Okay, I will look for this product. I don't know if it's still available, but it's like it is a luminizer. It's very pinky. There's something about this that I love, and I use this particular e.l.f. small stipple brush. Tap it off, and I just feel like this just gives such a youthful appearance. Love this, but I will have to look for it because I think it's discontinued. Okay, so now our face is done and we want to finish up with the eyes and do the brows. Let's finish up with the eyes, and we're going to go back into the same shadow that I had applied on my lid. Now you can buy this individually and I will have it linked, but again, so many shades can be used. This is just a gray charcoal. You can switch it up for brown. So you don't have to get this particular palette. It's discontinued anyway, but let's go back in with a little angled brush. We're going to go in the same shade. As you can tell, I didn't use a lot of shadows. And we are going to go right on the lash line. And I do come up in here. Again, always tapping off, very important. You want to connect it right here. Inner tear duct, I have used this MAC SHROOM forever. And I just take a little small e.l.f. brush of some sort. And we just kind of highlight in here. Let me just share real quick that when I'm doing my makeup, I always like to keep my lips hydrated. I just use the NIVEA Milk and Honey. Just, nobody wants dry lips. I just have a recycled bottle here, and I have a little bit of, I think it's micellar water, maybe, that takes makeup off. I use a little pointy Q-tip to clean up my brows, any foundation, any concealer that would have gotten in my brows, to prep them to do them. Any powder, just cleaning them up. I do have microblading done. I had it done maybe about a year ago. I like it. Glad I did it. It gives me a nice template to work with. But with all of the aggressive skincare products that I use, it really fades it out. So I don't know if it's something I will keep up with. You know, you have to put your return on investment, and with my skincare being so important, I just don't know. I did shave my face this morning. I do have a video on face shaving. I do clean up my brows, trim them, different things like that. So I just kind of comb them out, and we are going to go in with Benefit Precisely My Brow. I have number 4 and number 4.5. It's funny, I don't think the website has these right. One is a neutral brown and one is a warm brown. Well, I'm not a warm, I would be a neutral. And but if you look on the website, the one that they call warm looks like neutral and vice versa. So one is one is the other. I've just been using both. what I do is I start underneath, and I like the lower part of my brow darker than the rest. So the inner part I like darker, and then the lower part. Okay, so I have a nice line there, and then I go in and do the bottom of the other side, and that's really all I do with the pencil. Then I move into a powder. I really recommend this Makeup Forever brush and spoolie. This was recommended to me by like a makeup artist, and I'm so glad that I got it. I use the dark brown Anastasia, or Anastasia, however you say it, brow powder duo. And you can tell I use both colors, but I use more of the light, especially if I'm getting highlights or anything like that. Or I go back and forth, whatever. But really all I want to do is give lifelike hair strokes. But I like to start here because I like it the darkest in this area. And then I work my way outward like this. I already have pretty decent brows. I was actually blessed with good brows, and I didn't really do the 90s thing where everyone over tweezed. I didn't really get into that, so I did kind of save my brows a little. If you were doing a natural look to, say, go to the office, I think you have to pick and choose what you're going to do. And I would say, like, obviously contour, highlight, you don't need all that. But I think brows are important. Brows are done. We are going to go into our brow bone highlight. This again is where you just want any vanilla shade. There's a vanilla shade in just about every palette. I love the LORAC Pro palette. That would probably be a palette that I would recommend if you wanted to do this look, if you couldn't get your hands on this, just because there's two different shadows that you could have used. It has a beautiful vanilla shade in there. There's a white if you want to use it for a highlight. It really has everything that you can imagine. But again, you can always pick up this shade by itself. I think this one may be discontinued, and again, vanilla, anything. We're just going to go in with a flat brush, tap it off, and do our highlight. So you can see the eyes are done in steps. That's just how I do it, but I never have to deal with fallout. That's what I love. Now you're really going to want to blend and merge everything together. This is kind of my favorite part when it comes to eye, is really just blending everything. What I'm going to do is lightly, just ever so lightly, tap this blending brush in here. And you can see that it's probably on the end, and I want to get it kind of swirly, so I move it around up here. And then we're going to go right above where we did our shadow. So in between the lower shadow and the brow bone highlight, we want to merge back and forth, windshield wiper motion first, and then a circular. Okay, smudgy, that's the key, is everything needs to be smudgy, especially when you're going smoky like this. There's nothing worse than seeing someone who either has too much sparkle, especially when you're older, or they just are not doing the blending, which is so key. If you really want to vamp up, this is optional, but I love it. I go with an eyeliner on the lower waterline. I'm using the NYX Faux Blacks in Burnt Sienna. This is such a unique color, and I just apply it right down here. I don't do mascara on my lower lashes only because I already have small eyes, and I just feel like as I've gotten older, it's a softer look. You have to tweak things, ladies, as you get older, but I love this. It's not like a harsh black. I wouldn't do black down there. It's just too much. But I love black on the upper waterline. Now for the eyes, you could end here. I don't wear mascara on the upper lashes because I have lash extensions, or you can apply falsies. I will apply falsies because I know many people want to see me do it. I also do have a false eyelash application video. I will make sure it's linked below. I love this little detail brush I want to tell you about. It's the maybe E36. It's a wispy brush, but it's really small. So let's see, we've been talking about, I think this is the E36. But if you want something a little smaller, like because you have small eyes like I do, this is a great one as well. And sometimes at the end, I will go in very lightly with the dark shade if I feel like I need to darken it up a little bit here for a smoky, just lightly adding that in. But this is a great detail brush as well. Let's say you wanted to use a unique color. Let's have fun for a minute. Let's go into this palette right here, this Sephora Pro with all these fun colors. And I know a lot of people are loving more of like the oranges and different colors like that. Those really aren't great colors for me, but let's just say you wanted to add a pop. So you can kind of see this is the look that we have going on, but I'm going to add a little something today. We could go into, let's say we go into this hazel, and we're just going to lightly tap this in here and get some on our brush, but you really want to make sure you tap it off. Now you are just going to border what you worked on. So right up here, we are just going to lightly border what we worked on. It's really about having this brush right here because it's wispy. It's not going to be too much. And then you can go back into your E36 just to make sure that blends really nice. Kiss Strip Lash Adhesive is my favorite. I have tried all of these for false lashes, and this is my favorite one. It's going to go on white, which I like. I don't like when it's black because I like to see what I'm doing. You are also going to need some tweezers. But again, you're going to get more details of this on my eyelash application video. You want to let the glue set. The biggest mistake that people make is they don't let the glue set up and they start to apply the lashes when the glue is too wet, and that's a nightmare. I rarely ever do it, but sometimes when I am doing someone else's makeup, maybe someone for a formal dance in high school, a bride, whatever, I get antsy and that's when I'll make the mistake. And you can apply false lashes with lash extensions. You just have to be really careful when you're taking them off. But I do show in my video how to take your lashes off as well. As you can see, and these I've wore several times. They're a little dusty. I reuse them all the time. I don't use new lashes each time. I hold it in the center, and then what I do is I apply it from the center as well, dropping it in there, holding it for a second, positioning it, patience, can't stress that enough, and then I take the center and I apply that. I'm going to move this so I'm up closer to make sure I've got it right where I want it. The glue will dry clear. I take my time and I keep moving my tweezers around, making sure I'm shaping them how I want. I love false lashes, but I do love the everyday look of lash extensions. Lashes are on. All we have left is lips, and I am going to go get started with my Huda Beauty lip contour in the color Muse. We are going to go with a nude lip. Many nudes are in the peachy family. Unless it's a real pinky peach, I can't get away with it. It's too warm. I look better in the pinky tones, the mauve tones, something like that. And I also don't look good with corpse looking lips. So you're going to have to really adjust this to what looks best on your skin coloring. When I apply lip pencil, I start with the bottom and I smile to do the bottom part. You may have noticed that I went just below the lip line. That is what I always do. Now when I do the top lip, I don't smile. Another little tip, if you want to make your lips look fuller, I think not having a big point on your two little tips, but kind of filling that in like this will make your lips look fuller. We are going to go with Estee Lauder Beautiful Crazy. And then to top it off, we are doing Huda Beauty Lip Strobe. Love this in Angelic. And there you go. There is the whole look. Couple things I want to share. Makeup sponge and my concealer brush, I wash every time I use them. So I will wash those right now so they're ready to go for tomorrow, and I use Dawn dish soap. And then the other thing that I want to say is always have your BOSCIA blotting linens on you, especially this time of the year. Again, we're trying to go long wearing makeup. I shouldn't have to touch this up, but I have found that this step right here seals it all. This is the NARS Translucent Crystal Light Reflecting Setting Powder. This is so great for if you're going to be in photos, if you're in the sunlight, if you're going to be outside at all, but this is what's going to seal it all. Now I know we've already set everything, so this may seem a little much, but it does the trick for me. This is kind of an old sponge, but it's my favorite one. I have new ones, but I go around and I press everything. One last time. This does not make your makeup look more cakey because of it being a powder again. I think it's the light reflecting crystals in it. It's not shimmery at all. Believe me, I would never, I'm lucky I used the highlights that I did. Speaking of highlight, I did forget a couple areas that I generally do add a little sparkle, so we'll add those in. But this sets everything. But real quick, when we had done the highlight on the cheekbone, and if you want to add more for a night out, you know, mine is not overdone, but you can. But another area that I love to do is the tip of my nose right here. I love that look. And here you go. We are ready for our night out. I don't know, maybe. I'm probably just going walking. I don't know. Hey, we have to go do something with this face, right? There you have it, ladies, the makeup tutorial. Don't forget all of the products and tools will be linked in the drop-down box as well as on the corresponding blog post. Let me know what you think of this video. Would you like to see more makeup tutorials? I am here for you. You let me know what you want from me. All right, we'll see you soon in the next video. Have a great one.